everyone. I'm very, very excited today. Please smile. If you're not looking at the video, everyone, I'll do it again. Please smile. That's me, very, very excited because I'm with Scott Stratton here, also known as Unmarketing on Twitter. So thank you for being here with us.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
You did an awesome presentation yesterday. You were at the Sierra AGM, of course, with BizStone there, but we all know that you were the star.
I was the biggest deal on Twitter in the room.
Of course. You were the one trending, right?
That's right.
So Scott Stratton here, he's the president of an organization or an agency called Unmarketing. He's an expert in viral, social, and authentic marketing, which he calls Unmarketing. He's formerly a music industry marketer, national sales training manager, and a professor at the Sheridan College School of Business.
Yes.
He's still a professor.
I finished 2 years ago, and I'm now the newest inductee to their Business Hall of Fame, which is hilarious if you ask any of my teachers if I'd ever get there. So yeah.
That's so cool. And yeah, so he ran an agency called Unagency, which I think is really cool because I work for an agency right now, so I'd be totally interested in hearing more about that. But today we're actually going to talk about how to make young PR, marketing, communications professionals awesome.
Yes.
Right, so let's talk about being awesome.
Yes.
One of my first questions is, so you talk a lot about companies who engage with customers and building their brand. For young professionals, what we do is we're the brand and we want to get our jobs, so we've got to connect with other professionals.
Right.
Whether it's across Twitter or in our area, and the best way to do it is through Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and all social media, right? So how do you do that? How can a young professional do that without being creepy?
Well, that's what you have to understand. Like, thing with social media is different from being in person. You can never interrupt in social media. Where people are having a conversation on Twitter, you can jump in and say hi. It's a little harder in a networking event full of seasoned professionals. You can just jump in and say, well, what I think is this, and it kind of throws. It's really hard. It's really intimidating.
It is.
And I actually think it's so much easier nowadays, so much more leverage nowadays, being a young professional versus when I came out of college in the late 90s, that the only way I could break into conversational circles was to literally physically break into them at events. I remember my first event I went to in Toronto, there was 4,000 professionals there and me. And I walked in, I looked at the ballroom for lunch, and I walked right out.
Yeah.
And I went to McDonald's. And I was just so intimidated, I can't do it. And so now you lose a lot of that intimidation because we all have 140 characters. I don't care if you're just your first year out of school, you're still in school, or you're just a few years out. You have the same amount of characters on Twitter as somebody, myself, or somebody who's been in the business for 30 years. Okay. And so we have the same, we're playing ball with the same mitten, the same glove, the same equipment. So you realize that it's not about necessarily what you know, even. It's about how approachable or how personal for you. And when you're younger, when you're new to the field, you're not as jaded as a lot of us who've been in it for a long time, which is nice. You learn to hate people after a while. So, it's really just the willingness to learn, to ask questions. Anytime anybody asks, I rarely get asked questions on Twitter. I have replied to people over 60,000 times on Twitter, and rarely are they questions about the industry or anything else. And so I'm more than happy to answer them, more than happy to talk to somebody. And when somebody starts talking to me and asking me some questions or replying to mine or retweeting my stuff, you notice them.
Yeah.
You notice people who give. But if somebody writes to me and says, and it happens more often than getting questioned, people say, are you hiring?
Yeah.
That's not the
that's
question.
what we want to get away from, and I know that a lot of professionals have that. They're trying to find that middle point where they want to say, yes, I'm looking for a job, without saying those words, right? So, and then a lot of them, you're gung-ho when you come out of college, and you're like, oh, I need a job, I've got to pay, know? So you get really, really excited, and then you just kind of go out and then you start saying, are you hiring, are you hiring, are you hiring?
Right.
So, are you saying that would it be easier for a professional to start early in the sense, start connecting early so by the time you graduate, you can kind of just say, oh, you know what, I've graduated, any advice for me, and then maybe that can open doors.
And that's that whole digging that well before you need it, where the best way to ask to get a job is not to ask for one.
Yeah.
That if I'm hiring somebody, I used to do hiring. I used to be in HR, and I used to go through the 200 resumes, 500 resumes, 800 resumes, and I would hire somebody I knew well before I looked at the pieces of paper. So if I knew somebody who would fit with the job, and this is for anybody, it's not just somebody who's in HR or not, or marketing or PR, when you say, we have a vacancy we need to fill, which would you rather do? go place an ad somewhere, wait for all their applications to come in, and go through that 8-week process?
Yeah.
Or do you say, you know what, I know somebody just graduated from Carleton, and I think he or she'd be great. You see the difference was, I need to know you though to do that.
Exactly.
Your job, to me, being new in the industry, is to make sure that people get to know that you exist. Not that you're desperate for a job or you need a job, or your Twitter profile says, you know, looking for a job, right? But you can change it. You can make it sound less desperate. You can say, looking forward to starting off my career in a long life of PR and communications or something, right? It seems a little bit of a hook different than give me a job.
Yeah.
You know, and I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't hire somebody because they asked for one. I wouldn't. You make yourself so available and sharing such great content and communicating really well. If you're going into PR and communications, you want to be able to communicate properly, right?
Exactly.
So you want to give to the people. You want to get known for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Right? Not the wrong reasons.
That's good. Very, very good advice. Next question. So you've got like a bajillion followers or something like that. I know. I know a lot of young professionals struggle with the number of followers they have. They say that they have, you know, oh, I only have 200 followers. I only have 100 followers. What is your? Because I know you touched a little bit on this on yesterday's presentation about it's not the number.
Right. It's true. It's not that you can't look at somebody and say they have myself. I have 135,000 followers, or this new graduate's got 5,000, or Lady Gaga's got 4 million, or whatever. There's always going to be somebody with more or less followers. It's not about the numbers, even though it's on my bio and it says it there. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with the number of connections you make. And that's why, as a new person in the field, that means you could be not a student anymore. You could be in a field for 10 years and switch over to another field, so you're new again. The point is to make the right following, make the right connections. I can buy you followers. If you want 20,000, I'll keep them by tomorrow. But that means nothing. They're all going to be fake accounts. They're all going to be accounts that mean nothing. I'd rather have 100 quality connections and follows than have 10,000 and nobody listens to me. Right? But how you get follows, here's the difference, is if you want to get a substantial following, again, which means nothing, but on a PR sense, numbers mean something. Right? And that's to PR, right?
Yeah.
Impressions, views, reads, followers, subscribers.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and say they mean something to nobody, because they still do mean something.
Yeah.
So the job is to say, if I want more followers, I have to do more. Right? It's very simple.
You're not going to get followers out of nothing.
No, you're going to tweet once a week, 2 minutes a week. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So my job, when I first wanted to gain substantial following on Twitter back in 2009, in January of 2009, I decided to tweet, 24 hours a day. I tweeted 7,000 times in 1 month because I wanted to get a presence. And the difference was I knew that replying to people built relationships, but getting retweeted got followers. So here's the difference, right? So replying to people, a conversation, but the more I reply to you, the more likely you are to share my other stuff too, because we have a relationship. It wasn't phony, it wasn't fixed, but I also said 3 to 5 times a day, I'm going to find great content, usually not mine, find great content out there and share it. So if I want to make an impression in the PR field, I'm going to share PR-related content to everybody so they start seeing it. So my peers, the people who could hire me down the road, would see the tweets and they'd start sharing it. Now at the start, people weren't going to share your stuff at all.
No,
Somebody's going to see it. But your job is to start following, talking, replying, and then those retweets will eventually get you those followers. And I knew the more great content I shared, the more followers I got.
And you said something yesterday in your presentation about the amount of replies out of like all, was it 75%?
Yes, so out of all, that month I tweeted 7,000 times, or now where I've tweeted over 90,000 times, I'm at 78.6% replies.
Yeah, so that just goes to show that, if you want the followers, you've got to engage. You can't just...
You do.
Yeah.
You're not seeing that, right? You're not going to sit there and just shoot out news pieces, right? There's got to be an engagement and interaction there. And you don't want a talking head the entire time. So for me, that proves that Twitter is a conversation, not a dictation. That you should be talking with people, not at them all the time. And that's really how it works. I've been walking that talk since day one, since 4 years now being on Twitter. It is a conversation. When people say it doesn't work, or it doesn't work, or it shouldn't work, it's terrible sales and marketing. Twitter is. Conversations are a terrible place to have to sell. Right?
Exactly.
They're the way to engage and to warm up people and to get to know them. And the sales happen off-site, off a thing.
Yeah.
That's the difference. It's like a trade show. It's like a networking event. The sales don't happen in the room.
No,
They happen
that's
afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Same thing with Twitter.
Okay. Yeah, I remember someone, I think it was Ginny Dietrich in Chicago, who mentioned something that Twitter is not your marketing tool.
Right.
Twitter is your engagement tool.
Right.
That's where you get to know people, and then you build a relationship with them, and they're more likely to hire you, buy something from you, etc.
Right. If Jeannie and I contradict each other, just listen to her. She's smarter.
Sounds
She's much
good.
smarter.
You hear that, Ginny? So, last question, because I love to do things in three. Let's talk about the book, because that's what you're here for today. I love how you can flip it on both sides. It's the coolest thing ever. It makes me think of, because I grew up bilingual, and they used to always give us books that were French on one side, and then you'd flip it English on the other side. Coolest thing ever. So I was really excited when I saw your book. So if you had 30 seconds, not yet, to convince a young professional why they should read your book, because some of the lessons you have in that book will apply to any brand. You know, it doesn't have to be that you're a company selling. It could be that you're a young professional selling your brand, right? So you have 30 seconds to convince a young professional why your book is so awesome.
Well, it's pretty simple. One side's all about the book of business awesome. Flip it upside down, it's the book of business unawesome. 2 bios, 2 openings, 2 closes, all about what businesses do well and do not so well, to get people to talk about them, to love their brand or to hate it, and what is the circumstances that you are the brand. And the whole book is about, it's not logos, it's not brochures, and PR really needs to hear this stuff. And communications needs to know this. It's not how many faxes you can send in, press releases you can send in. It's that engagement. If you have journalists in your roster of people you know, it's the 20 journalists you know, not the 2,000 blast list you can do that for. I have a huge PR rant in the book, but PR is not public relations necessarily. If people respond, people react, people reach out. And how do we change that? How do we realize the mindset is about not mass blasting, but intimate connections in business? And that's where it shows you good and bad. And also, if it goes bad, you can actually flip it and make it good as well. There's a lot of train wrecks and lovely stuff, and the train wrecks alone are worth the book itself.
And I know one thing that you mentioned about your book is that there's a lot of stories in it. So if if you're looking for a case study or something like that, and you want stories of good PR or bad PR, or good communications, bad communication, marketing, all that, this is a good book for it.
I like it. Yeah.
Of course you like it. Well, thank you so much for being with us, and we hope to connect soon.
Thank you.